Welcome to a very special Barroom Network presentation presented by Mike and BB North, a recollection, so to speak, of the Dick Butkus interview with Mike North, or the Mike North interview with Dick Butkus that was recorded some time ago. Mike, take us back in time. Tell us how this whole thing happened.
All right, Eldo, thanks very much, and I appreciate it. And folks, I hope you enjoyed this 1 hour special that we're going to be doing. This was a show that we did in the year 2000. I'm seeing friends in the audience. I see my brother-in-law, who I play golf with, who was in his 50s at the time, and now he's 74. So we're going back in time. What we did is we found the 1 hour Dick Butkus show we did from Pasta Pasta in the north side of Chicago, northwest side at Edison Park. Pasta Pasta is no longer open, but it was one of the finest Italian restaurants in the whole city at the time. And my friend Tino Antonacci was the owner. And one night I'm in the bar area, and there's a gentleman in there, a short man, about 5'5", 5'6". And he's talking like this, and he's going, you know, our business is doing this, our business is doing that. Then he sees that I'm in the house. He goes, oh, look at it, it's the radio guy. How you doing, radio guy? I go, what do you do? He goes, well, I'm the chairman of ComDisco. My name's Jack Slevin. And I go, really? So do I call you the ComDisco guy? He goes, nah, we could shake hands. And I said, we started talking. And ComDisco at the time was stationed in Rosemont, and it's one of the most, at that time, successful corporations in the country. They had, in fact, a branch office in London, financial type of situation. And we got hammered at the bar at Pasta Pasta. And I went home that night, woke up the next day, and I said, you know, if I ever want to do a TV show, this guy might be a good sponsor. I waited a couple weeks. I called him up. I said, this is how much I need. And it was an extravagant amount of money at the time because Aldo's done plenty of TV. We had to bring cameras, huge cameras with cables. Mm-hmm. And we had to take over the carryout section on behind the restaurant, which was a separate store on the side, but it was connected. And the cameras had to be taken up to the second floor of the restaurant. That's where the big banquet room was. And what the big banquet room did was it allowed the restaurant, we served a meal, okay? Mm-hmm. And you had 3 choices. And that night we had 400 people in the place. And if you notice when you notice and watch it, folks, you'll see a lot of Butkus jerseys. Well, we had Dan Gable on, who was a wrestler, Full House. Yeah. Walter Payton, Full House. I mean, we had great guests. We did over 30, 40 shows. I mean, from that restaurant, from Carlton Fisk to Jake LaMotta to Pete Rose, which was the all-time record setter right after the All-Star game, where Jim Gray gave him the hard time. We had the best guests. We were on CBS. So we decided to do this. And I told Jack Slevin what I needed. And he said, yeah, carte blanche. ComDisco was happy. And we were able to hire a crew of 10, because that's what you had to have. Yeah. And the crew of 10 was from a place called Video Impressions. Now they're a different place, but we still know them. And they're the ones that just found this and cut this up for us. And now we've entrusted it to Eldo. Okay. And I got full faith in them. I was saying that to myself after I got off my knees last night and made the sign of the cross. No, it's going to be. And the thing about this was you'll see familiar faces, or you'll see on the scroll afterwards. Because I took we had to have a crew too. So my stage manager was Jerry Riles, okay, who was with me at the Score. And our guest booker was Jesse Rogers, who is now a premier ESPN reporter. Yeah. I'm almost tearing up. because the money we made making that show would dwarf many today because of the people that wanted to spend and get an hour of advertising on CBS. And before that, at WJYS. So we had John Suntress, Shaky, who opened things up as my Ed McMahon.
He's awesome.
We had, he was just the look of the man, just the way he handles himself. Mm-hmm. And he would do a warm-up act for 10 minutes before the show. Then whatever guest came in, from Eric Kramer to Curtis Enos didn't show up on this, the only guy that never showed up, to Jake LaMotta, to anybody. And we're going to get them all done because we found a stash of them.
Nice.
Yeah. And guess who's going to do the situation? Nice. Until now. Until he finds
out. Surprise.
Surprise. So, but I got to say this, and I think I got everybody. I got video impressions. I got BB. Oh, wait, I don't have BB. I got Jesse. I got Shaky. I got the restaurant. I got Jerry Riles. I got just a great crew of people. But it don't work without a woman who not only had the best hot dog stand in Chicago, but won an Emmy for the show.
Look at that.
Now, here's the odd thing about this Emmy. Because I told B, I said, well, when we went for the Emmys, what you have to do is you have to cut 5 minutes up. So we had Peyton, we had Will Chamberlain. And when they vote for the Emmy, like for the Air Awards that I won 4 different Air Awards for Talk Show Host of the Year. Well, they vote outside of town. They vote in a different locale at that time for the Air Award. They voted from Boston. Otherwise, I never win one. The squares in Chicago, they would have never given it to me. Ever. And Aldo knows that. Ever. And the same thing held true. But the Emmy says here, Chicago Midwest Emmy Award, Outstanding Achievement for Individual Excellence on Camera. I had a lot to do with it, but I'm not the reason. Reporter Mike North, they called me, host reporter, prime time with Mike North on WJYS TV. And anybody in Chicago knows WJYS is channel 62. You turn on that thing, and there's preachers begging for money.
That's right.
The whole station, except us. I said, well, how much is it to get on? They told me. I go, okay. And all of a sudden, they won an Emmy. And I can guarantee you this. Unless it's in the religious category, they don't have no football Emmys. No. They don't have no talk Emmys. Now, we're going to get to the video. It's an hour, but you got to listen to this. BB North never did TV. She won an Emmy her first year doing TV on an independent basis. So when Channel 2 said, we don't like this, we don't like that, we said, tough. We're doing it. Well, we don't, if they said, we don't like the leopard chairs, or we don't like Bobby Heenan, his antics. Tough. They said, okay. And that is what made this show as great as it is. To me, BB, from the way the set looks, Jesse, all those people did it. I did the easy part. All the crew did the hard part, from bringing in the cameras, load. Yeah, it looked like NASA down there. Yeah. They're having takeout pizza, and there's six people at the board.
Yep.
There's tables going up the stairs. Now you bring in the little cameras.
Yes, exactly.
Set them, it takes 2 minutes. Not then. Not then. So the effort that they all put in. But my wife, she's a pioneer. I mean, I don't think anybody, she should be in the Chicagoland Sports Hall of Fame for the show that she put on, for the amount of time she was on the score. She must have hosted 50, 60 shows. Now it's, oh, look at, there's women there. She did it in 92, 93, 94. She was #1 with the hot dog stands. I mean, she's a genius. She was in the top 10 of her class. I brag about her now because I didn't brag about her then. So this is good for me too, because I saw myself up there. Now, Aldo knows. We got to get to me eventually. And Aldo loves when I toot my own horn. we did those shows. I did some average shows. I did some good shows. I never did a bad show. I don't care if we had Daniel J. Travanti on, Harold Ramis, Eric Kramer. Eric Kramer was the one that didn't draw. He didn't draw. Everybody else drew for the most part.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting. He was a quarterback for the Bears, but not as popular when you think about it because he performed. But I'm
that's right. He broke records, so he wasn't popular.
Get rid of this guy. And you know, I hope he's doing better now because he's had some personal issues. But I knew his sister. She was a bartender in Vegas.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I knew the family, so I hope he's doing well. But the Butkus night, if you notice, and I did every show like this, once you watch, there's no notes, none. Every other interview show I watch now, they're like, you hear paper going. There's no notes. I knew everything about the guy, except I didn't. I asked him stuff, and I want everybody to get ready for this. I asked him stuff. Did you play regular games as a kid? Did you play tag? Did you play? They don't people ask that anymore. Did you play hide and seek? And if you did, once you found him, did you put him through a wall? You know? I mean, how do you? Yeah, he didn't really play football. He had two other loves. And that he played water polo because he could violate the man underneath the water. He does it. Talks about his days in Chicago. Talks about what he did. You will never see a looser. I was told at the time, I forget who the critic was. It couldn't have been Feeder. He never wrote too much good about me, except he did put me in the top 10 of most influential people of the 90s. So I cut him some slack. I was ninth. I didn't like that, but he put Oprah behind me. No, I was seventh. He put Oprah behind me. That's okay.
That's not bad.
That's not bad. But it was somebody said it's the best interview of Butkus they ever did. So I would ask Eldo before we go to it. Eldo, you'd cut it. A looser Dick Butkus you won't find. And the green room was where we got him loose. We'd have a couple drinks. I didn't drink that night. I have Diet Coke. It's right there on the dais. And there's an unknown story. We said goodbye to him. The camera goes off and he goes, "Hey, what are we doing? I came all the way over here." I go, now he's looking at me like he's looking at Jim Brown. I go, and he was so funny and so nice. It's the nicest I've ever seen him because he's with all Chicago people.
Yeah.
He was from North Side to South Side, and he said, "Let's do a two-parter." First, only man to ever do that. He says, "These are my people. I'm having a good time." I go, "Well, how do you know you're having a good time? Because of you?" I go, "Because of me." I go, "There's a lot of people here. They adore you." He goes, "I forgot I was on TV. I thought we were just talking, just at the bar. That's why I miss Chicago." And I sort of like, that was enough for me. And so I said, I got to bring my A game for the second show. And we did. So Eldo,
let me tell the audience that what we've done is you're going to see these two episodes back to back.
Right.
And each of the episodes, you start with what is called in the business a cold open. And so you're someplace off of the set, and it's you and Shaky Suntress talking to Dick.
Oh, there were other people. There was like 10 people in there, but the room was sort of like, the camera could only catch certain things.
Gotcha. So tell me how that cold open idea came about. What did you have a strategy, or was that just off the cuff? Go ahead and talk to him, and we'll point the camera at you.
Well, my strategy was, and I don't know who made the suggestion, but I know it would always go by the executive producer, which was BB. And then me and B would talk about it. In other words, somebody would say it to me, or I'd come up with it. I came up with a lot of the ideas, but I don't want to. I can't remember if I came up with this idea or not. Might have been somebody else. Knowing what I do and knowing how I wanted to be outside the box, from the set with the leopard chairs to Bobby Heenan, wait till you see that when he brings a ladder out and throws it at the people like he's in a wrestling ring. I just said at the time, and we all liked it, because think about this. We had LaMotta back there. We had Ramus back there. We had Pudge Fisk, Peyton ate back there with me. We used to we'd eat with the stars afterwards. Butkus stayed for 2 more hours that night, and people would come up to him, and we'd be eating. But the main thing about what you asked me was, we'd bring them in. My strategy, our strategy. It wasn't really a strategy. It's just like, let's have a couple drinks before we do the show, and then loosen up and talk. And if you see Dick Butkus in the green room, which was where the bread was kept and everything else, but you also had a desk and you had, chairs and stuff. He was so loose because he was considered an introvert. If you listen to Ed O'Bradovich, he's not really outgoing. When he was with me, because he knew I loved him, he heard me on the radio. But I asked him interesting things and what's important, and he got loose with me. We were Chicago guys. Just like I said, he forgot where it's from. But that idea came way before that, when we did our first shows there. We didn't do it at Hollywood Casino where we did the WJYS shows at first. For bigger rooms, sometimes you had to go out. Okay. We figured we were surprised by Dan Gable, the wrestling superstar. We got every wrestler in Illinois coming. There's nothing but guys with no necks walking in. I go, where are you from? He goes, Homewood Flossmoor. I go, they came from all over. Iowa and everything. So it was something to behold. And to have him back there, it just gave him a sense of family. And once they came out there, they were part of the crew.
All right. Well, without further ado, you're going to see Dick Butkus in a way you've never seen him before, unless you watch these original broadcasts, and Mike North doing his magical job of interviewing an icon of Chicago sports, of sports period. Here it is, the interview with Dick Butkus and Mike North.
Remember the principal from Welcome Back, Kotter?
Yeah.
That's what Mr.
Woodman.
He's a great guy. I love that guy.
He was laying in the snow and
now, was that after? Did they make that after Welcome Back, Kotter? Did they make that movie after Welcome Back, Kotter? Before?
I think it was during a break.
Could you even look at the guy without cracking up? And it's Mr. Woodman.
He was. He played. Let's see, the daughters.
Oh, like the father?
The father, and we're laying in the snow in Park City at night.
You and him?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Doing a scene, he's freezing his ass off.
He's going, geez, man. What the hell's Gabe Kaplan? I don't have this condition sitting there with horse shit. That's all I know. This sucks, got it?
From CBS 2 Chicago at Basta Pasta on Chicago's Northwest Side, Com Disco presents Overtime with Mike North. Tonight's guest, Dick Butkus. And now, your Emmy Award-winning host from The Score, Sports Radio 1160, Mike North.
Welcome to Com Disco's Overtime with Mike North. From Basta Pasta, the Northwest Side of Chicago, on Channel 2. And tonight's a special night, a great night. He was voted by Sports Illustrated the greatest defensive football player of all time. Should have won the greatest football player of all time, but Jimmy Brown beat him out for that. He looks like he still wants to play. Hall of Famer, the greatest defensive football player who ever lived, from Chicago, back home, ladies and gentlemen, Dick Butkus. And you're such a shy guy, aren't you? And you're such a shy guy. Yeah. Look at me. There you are. You know what? I got to be honest. I haven't heard such loud applause for you since you won that one game in 1969.
Yeah, well, where'd you get these people?
Well, they came from all over. You know, we said you were going to be on the show, so we went down to some of the shelters. And we said, would you like to come to the Dick Butkus show? And they said, sure. You know?
Yeah, you got a wide range there. You got the kids. What are you
got
mad
the kids.
or what? Kids
he thought Otis Wilson was going to be on tonight.
Yeah.
Hey,
anyway.
You know what I can't picture? I mean, tell me, I can't picture you as a normal kid. Did you play like tag and hide and seek? I got a feeling when you were 6, you had the gear on. And you were out to destroy somebody. I can't see you going, you're it. I mean, you were living in Roseland, you know?
You know what I started out doing was swimming.
Really?
Yeah. I used to play a place on 103rd right by the tracks down from Emerald. We call it the Tank. It was a city swimming thing, and so we started out at 8 years old swimming competitively. Then we played water polo, which is a tough sport.
Water polo.
Water polo.
Okay.
And there were two guys there that actually played in the Olympics on the water polo team, Sam and Bill Koistra, and they were from that park district pool. So we had guys that, we're talking in the 50s that were in the Olympics and teaching us about water polo. You do a little kicking under the water and all that.
Yeah.
And so, because at that time they didn't have Pop Warner or any of that stuff, we just would have pickup games in the park. But actually it was swimming first, then baseball, and then football during the football season, but only playing around as a kid in the park. And the only organized football started in high school level. So
the first time you played, because you talk to these guys today, they played since they were 7, 8, 9 years old. When you went to CVS, that was the first time that you
first organized. Yep.
And did you play tackle like we used to play without equipment? I mean, with your buddies?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I have to see this. You're in 8th grade, and somebody's catching a pass, and you're tackling them without equipment.
Yeah, we used to, Gately Stadium was on 103rd near Cottage, and Fanger was a high school. Well, I lived on 103rd. They were on 111th, and they had some good teams back then. They played in the city championship a number of years. So we used to sneak in at Gately Stadium, and then on the way home, we'd go across these people. It was kind of a nice neighborhood there for a while. So then we'd play on their grass. Take the head off, throw it. That's the ball. Hit it. Dig up their lawn and move on. On our way home. Now it's like, stick them up and whatever.
Right.
I don't know, maybe kids really don't know how it was, but, a question, I'm asking your questions for you, but don't worry about it. Wouldn't you like to play today with all the money and everything else?
How much, now wait, they're signing offensive linemen for $50 million, $10 million a year. How much would Dick Butkus right now, maybe in your 3rd year in the NFL, be receiving? Not working for Halas now, because Halas would have undercut you. How much would you be worth right now?
They would have. I mean, even they're paying.
Right.
That's how. Well, what did I see where the linebackers, middle linebackers, the transition guy and whatever the other guy is.
You played every down.
$4 million or something.
$4 million, so you would have gotten about 6, right? You would have held out. 6, 7 million.
Yeah, I would have held. Yeah. $6 million.
We're going to be back with more Dick Butkus. We're back with Dick Butkus. Right here. When you first came to camp, was there ever a day? Who were you afraid of? Was there anybody in the game that you were afraid of, or anybody that you were concerned about? When you were playing, was it Flanagan, the guy that you always gave grief to, the center of Detroit, or Tingelhoff? Was it a running back? Was there anybody you were afraid of?
No, I don't think there was anybody really that you're afraid of. Any fear that you have is that, maybe you won't play as good as you hope you could or whatever, as far as saying, well, okay, this week, I got Tingelhoff. Tingelhoff he wasn't big or anything, but he knew how to hold you and everything else. And I'd always said that he was the toughest guy to play against. Forrest Blue from the 49ers, he was like 6'6" or something. He was like one of the first big guys that were coming in the league, but he was no problem. It's just anybody that would make your job difficult, like Ernie McMillan of the Cardinals. He would be great today because he always used his arms and kept you away. A lot of tackles, their job would be the middle linebacker in a 4-3 lineup, and if there was a sweep, like the Green Bay sweep, Forrest Gregg would come down on you. Well, if you can get by those people, then you're pretty well free to make the tackle. But Ernie wouldn't throw; he would pass block you, so you had to, I had to get around him, and meanwhile that back is running all the time. But as far as being afraid of anybody, I don't think so.
How about if there was free agency back then? First of all, it had to be a dream to be drafted by the Bears?
Oh.
I mean, you grew up in Chicago, and now you're a Chicago Bear. I mean, you had to be psyched. The whole neighborhood had to be psyched. Your parents, everybody had to be psyched for that. But if there would have been free agency then, like there is now, do you think you would have played your whole career with the Bears?
Only if agents or somebody involved in handling you get control of you. Because originally, you know, they had the AFL and the NFL draft, and I was going to be drafted. It was all a set deal. Right. Everybody knew who everybody was going to get in the AFL. Denver was going to get me. The Jets were negotiating with this young quarterback from Alabama. Well, it turns out that my attorney at the time knew Sonny Werblin, and there was a possibility that we were going to tell Denver we weren't interested, but with the Jets we may be. And like Sonny Werblin had said many times when I saw him afterwards, he says, you know, we're 20 minutes from signing you too. But see, that was all everybody's else's business, and I was so naive that, you know, you know the Bears are going to draft me? I mean, the night of the draft, I knew I was going to be drafted by the Bears and everything. And I saw Gale the next day, and he said he was, you know, he's going to go play with the Bears. He was drafted by Kansas City. And Lamar Hunt comes to me and tries to tell me to talk Gale into going to Kansas City because he thought at the time I was a lock either with Denver or New York.
Right. So now he wants you to help the league out by talking to Gale.
Right, and that's the way they were doing it back in those days.
Gale Sayers said that the toughest player he ever played against was you in practice, which made him a better player when he played on Sundays. Can you say the same about him?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, you're going up against Altie Taylor or somebody like that on a Sunday after you've been trying to tackle Gale Sayers during the week.
Right, and so, you know, back then we played in like 2 or 3 All-Star games against each other, and then of course we played in the college All-Star game together, and plus at practice. There was nobody, you know, I was before Peyton and everything else, and he was great, and the only thing I would say about Peyton, you know, as being great is because of the longevity of it. But then you look at Gale, he played 5 years, and he made it to the Hall of Fame, and he just, you know, had some bad luck with injuries. But this guy ran back punts, kickoffs, did everything, just like Walter almost. But the game had changed a little bit in as far as, you know, using you. And that's what gets me. You've got a great running back who can maybe run back kicks for you, and they talk, well, you know, the special teams is a third of the game, but no, we won't put him on a kickoff because he might get hurt. Well, what the hell you got him?
Hey, I'm with you, Dick.
We used to have, Buffon and I used to have beefs with Gibran all the time. Because in exhibition season, we'd be on all the specialty teams. What the hell are these guys here for? You know, let them run down the field and everything else. Well, would you trust someone like those guys running down? Would you trust Andy Livingston running down on the kickoff? Well, give me his $2,000 then, and I'll run. I mean, that's the way it was.
We're going to be back with more Dick Butkus after this.
Help us find homes for animals in need. To adopt this pet, call this number. A public service message from Overtime with Mike North.
We're back with Dick Butkus. Hey, I've always said this, first of all. Why would you quit expelling gas? You know what? Now you live in Malibu now, right?
Yeah.
You do that in Malibu, you get arrested. Right. Here, you're a hero. What was it? The wine? What was it? The spaghetti? What was it?
Long flight.
Huh? A long flight. So in other words, if you take over a 3-hour flight, you get congested, right? Just feel free. I thought you brought your whoopee cushion with you. Let's talk about Lawrence Taylor. I did not like the fact that he beat you out in the that ESPN Athlete of the Century thing. He was like 40th and you were like 77th. And I've always said this, that he was not a linebacker, that he was a glorified defensive end. I mean, you had like 22 interceptions in your career, 25 fumble recoveries, and he had maybe a margin of that. Was he a linebacker or was he a defensive end? Lawrence Taylor. Don't worry, he's not here.
Yes. You're asking me?
Yes.
Well, you know, when he first came up, they tried him at middle and it didn't work. And Parcells, in his genius, discovered here's a way we can put this guy on the corner and have an impact player because of his quickness and strength to rush the passer. the game was changing too, a lot of passing, so you needed, all of a sudden they're counting these deals, what they call sacks, and he was the perfect guy, and he turned it around, and because he became an impact player at that position, and they say he's a corner linebacker or whatever. That's but it's interesting. He tried it in the middle, and he just wasn't effective.
Okay. Did you know how good you were? I mean, did you know what kind of impact you had on the game? Or were you one of those guys you just went out and did your job, and other people would pat you on the back, and you go, yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, well, you don't realize that as you're playing, or at least that would be the last thing you'd start thinking about, that you were becoming good or whatever. Like we were talking before. I mean, if somebody talked about holding out or doing something, becoming a free agent, the other guys and plus the coach would say, "What the hell's wrong with you? Oh, you want to leave us? Or and now it's like, well, I might not be here next year, and oh, really? Oh, me neither. I might go somewhere either. It wasn't that way. It was more teams. So each year, all you tried to do is just get better and better, and I just had like a little personal vendetta against whoever I played against, that maybe we weren't going to win. Maybe every year you'd go to training camp thinking we had a chance, but I had to be a hell of an actor to believe that, because it just wasn't there.
When you laid somebody out, though, did you enjoy? I mean, when you saw the guy out, you got the big hit.
Because that's.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, because it really doesn't happen that often where you get a good shot on somebody. And of course, when that happens, it magnifies everything as far as everybody. That's why, like on NFL films, you have all these other players.
They got a half hour on you.
Yeah, and they're talking about all these things I did, and I tell you what, I can't remember half the they're talking about. You know what I mean?
Did you spit on the ball? Tingeloff says you spit on the ball.
No.
All right. Did you bite anybody? The referee says you bit him.
Miami exhibition game.
Miami exhibition game.
No way. Jose.
Okay. Did you do anything ever illegal in the game of football, or were you Sportsman of the Year every single year?
I would have voted myself right up there. Maybe I got a little just jobulated when I hit Aldi Taylor, a little bit out of the.
You threw him into the tarp at Wrigley Field.
Yeah, but
it was like 15 yards out.
Huh? It was the momentum that carried us out.
How was it playing in Wrigley Field? They had to be the best. Everybody was on top of you. We used to go to the games, and there was never, I don't believe, there wasn't a bad seat in the house.
No, the people were right on you. And the funny thing is, I'm sure everybody knows that field is like this.
Right.
Toward
it had
the
an
left.
8-yard end zone on one side.
Yeah, and then they had the end zone on the south side was boards across the dugout. And then if you ran too far on the north side, you ran into the wall. But and what was neat was the visitors would go through the visitors' locker room, and their locker room was upstairs, and they had like this, just like a cyclone fence. And I remember as a kid, I snuck down there. I got in as far as the locker room, and you can see the Packers walking by, and this and that. And then, they start throwing, it's just a cyclone fence.
Right.
They're throwing stuff and everything, and you got to go upstairs. Then they start doing it to us at Milwaukee County Stadium. They just had the cyclone fence. Then they got real cute, and they put like the canvas, like tarp over there, so they couldn't throw stuff on you. But that was, to me, that was pro football. This was in college where you play at the, with the luxury boxes and everything. This is the pros. The pros should be able to play anywhere. And, when we'd be out there like on Tuesday and Wednesday at practice, and, don't walk over there, the paint's not dry, and they're painting the grass in Wrigley Field late in the year, because there's no grass.
Right.
It's like playing on, hard pan. It's perfect. And then Doug would be up there talking to the ground crew while we're practicing. Doug
and smoking a cigarette.
I'd be smoking up there. And on Saturdays, Obradovich had a Great Dane, and Doug Atkins had a pit bull. And they'd bring them dogs to practice and bring them in the meetings room. The meeting room, was a quarter this size. And the dogs start barking, and Dooley's, Jesus, can you take the dogs out? And then Doug is snapping a towel at his. He's training them to be a pit. It was a pit bull.
No
it was
wonder
a fighter.
we were 1-13.
Yeah. But it was great for the family, you know. They were all out there Saturday playing with the dogs and that while we're trying to practice.
We're going to be back with Dick Butkus after this. We're back with Dick Butkus, the greatest defensive football player of all time. Well, in a lot of people's eyes, the greatest football player of all time. I got to ask you about this sportsterminal.com. Now, you don't strike me as a computer guy. I'm not a computer guy. I can't see you doing. No, I'm not. Are you a computer guy?
Yep.
How many computers you got at the house?
Two.
Two, and you use them?
No,
You know,
3.
And you know how to get the whole thing. You know how to do it.
Oh, yep. About 4 years ago, my daughter had them for college and her son-in-law, and they're saying, you know, you ought to know. I said, I can't. How do you turn it on? You know, and this and that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I said, this ain't gonna go anywhere. And so that's how smart I was, you know. So then it was raining in L.A. like 3 days out of the year. So he bought a couple programs, and you know, when someone shows you how to do it rather than reading, and so he showed me how to do it, and that was it.
Okay, now you're involved with the sportsterminal.com.
Okay,
now, what does that entail?
Okay, now if you're into the internet, let's say, for instance, you want to look up the Dick Butkus Football Network show.
Okay.
All right, then you'd have to type in that. Okay, wait for that. Okay, let's say you're into Illinois football. Well, you got to go to the official Illinois site. What this is, it's the first sports search engine page where you can sit and I could type, okay, Dick Butkus. It says, where's your address? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, here's 100,000 sports. What are you interested? Okay, I'm interested in CVS football, high school. I want to see how Mount Carmel's doing. I want to see how Illinois is doing in football and SC and maybe, you know, Penn State. Okay, in basketball. So I can pick all these sports, and it's there on the page. So now, tomorrow morning, I wake up, I want to see what did Illinois play, or geez, the Blackhawks played last night. I hit my page, boom, Blackhawks, boom, there it is. And there's other sports pages like CBS Sports, ESPN, Dick Butkus Football. They're not in competition. It's just that in the people who understand, it's your page,
and you can get
and
it from
it's
there.
All your sports, who you follow from Podunk you all the way, and it's not a bad idea. I wish the hell I would have thought of it, but
Well, you're getting some cash out of this,
I
right?
just do the commercials for them because I tell you what, this internet stuff is really something. You of all people should be in it.
I'll tell you what, I got more stuff to talk to Dick Butkus about. And we're going to be back with Dick next week for part 2. Yeah.
Transportation for guests of Overtime with Mike North provided by Charles Joseph Limousine Service, 312-623-1428. Clothing for Mr. North and Mr. Suntress designed by Arnold Brandt, courtesy of Executive Clothiers on Elmhurst Road in Prospect Heights. Signs of Success, experts in corporate and team apparel in Chicago. Call toll-free 1-877-SOS-6250. This is John Shaky Suntress for Overtime with Mike North, a Licorice Limited production.
Color TV, 1965. When I saw it,
Well, with the first time.
somebody had.
That was the first color TV you had, was 65?
I didn't have it.
No, we didn't have it.
I was
Down at school.
I was at school.
Mike, we didn't have the roll, you had to change the channel.
that's
Mike
why-
had an RCA, black and white TV.
We had color TV in Roseland, where you put that piece of paper on
Wait a
there.
minute, didn't you want to give you color TV when you signed? What did you get to sign with them?
They got me all the different transparent colors, so you could put it on the.
From CBS 2 Chicago at Basta Pasta on Chicago's Northwest Side, Com Disco presents Overtime with Mike North. Tonight, part 2 of our conversation with Dick Butkus. And now, your Emmy Award-winning host from The Score, Sports Radio 1160, Mike North.
We're back with part 2 of Tom Disco's Overtime with Mike North of Channel 2 from Basta Pasta on the north side. I said we got to do 2 parts because there just isn't enough time in a half hour. So we got 2 parts with Dick Butkus. Dick, you're wearing the same clothes you wore last week. I want to thank you.
Yeah. What a quick change, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Oh.
I always wondered how they do those games.
And you know what? The same people are here for some reason, the exact same seats. I don't know how this happened. That's exactly right. It's entertainment. Hey, you know, today's game, do you think it's too passive? Too passive. I mean, you hit the quarterback now, helmet to helmet, all this stuff. You watch the old films, and I'm talking before even you played. I'm talking in the 40s, the 50s. They'd run guys out of bounds. They'd hit the quarterback late. There were no calls. I know you got to protect some of your investment, but you think it's gone too far the other way?
Some rules, I think. You know, some rules like the fumble where the ground causes the fumble and everything else. I don't.
You believe the guy should have to hold on to the ball no matter what?
Yeah. Seems like you're cutting the play off, you know, and turnovers mean so much that I would think, you know, you'd start getting these people to concentrate and hold on to the ball. And like you say, you know, it's a real big investment to quarterbacks because when I was with the network, the network kind of feels that they create stars, and if you don't create stars, you won't get the viewers. That's why you've got the stars are always the quarterbacks. And maybe rightly so, you know, because, you know, there's a big drop-off from the starting guy from, you know, Steve Young to whoever they got, and, you know, Elway to Greasy. So, yeah, you got to do some measures to protect them guys. But the other stuff, you know, I mean, letting Rice run across the field, you know, unattached, you can't touch him, I don't go for that.
Okay, how about, you know what my favorite play was of yours? I used to love you when they were in punt formation, and you were in the middle, and you used to try to, you know, scare the center, and sometimes you did. But then you used to come up with the forearm. That's outlawed now, too. But that had to be one of your favorite plays. Here's a guy, his hands are down there. He has no way to defend himself. I'm Dick Butkus. I can knock his head off. Right?
Yeah, I used to line up like 5 yards back and get a running start at him.
Right.
No. See, when I first came up, I snapped. So all I ever did in my career was what really bothered me and turn it around. And like in high school, I was a fullback. Well, I didn't like getting tackled high and having someone like bear hug me, and then as we go down, I got nothing to break the fall. So that's why I always tried to tackle high. And the same thing when I was snapping. You know, you're kind of vulnerable there. You got to get that thing down, and then you look up, and then all of a sudden someone gives you a forearm, and it's not a happy deal. So that's why I used to just line up, and I'd let them know. You know, I mean, it's naturally if you look at it.
What did you say? What would you talk to them?
Oh,
like guys down like this. What would you say?
Well, I wouldn't say it here, but I mean, you know, they talk about trash talking. I guess that's what we were doing, but it was a little bit more sincere trash talking than you know, because you'd never know. One bad snap, this guy looks up a little bit too early. He's worried about getting hit. And see, back then you could also hit low. So sometimes I'd hit him a couple times in the game head on, and then I'd sneak over here, and then he's looking around, he snaps the ball, he looks, oh, he's clear, and then I'd come from the side.
Yeah. You know what my favorite tackle is? And I know you've seen this on probably, first of all, when you're at home once in a while, and you're going flipping through and you see on ESPN, and you see films of yourself, do you get yourself a nice cold beer and just sit back and enjoy? Do you just watch yourself on TV?
Oh, I've seen them enough, I guess.
How many times have you watched yourself on TV, though? How many times have you watched that Super Crunch tape?
Well, I've seen it a lot, you know, and I also talked to Steve Sable about it, too.
Why?
Why? You go to Blockbusters.
Oh, here we go. You want a Butkus tape out on the market.
And they're selling it. Well, what? Do they get to use all that? I mean, I'm sure you're not doing this for whatever.
Yes, I am. I'm doing this for nothing.
Yeah.
No, I understand.
Somebody's doing it for something.
So you want some cash?
No, I don't want no cash. But if Sports Terminal calls me and he said, well, look, Dick, we want to do a TV commercial. Could you get us a couple seconds of maybe your tape?
Right.
Yeah, sure. Call Steve Sable, NFL Films. No problem.
So did Steve Sable say he's going to do that?
Yeah, for $2,000 a second.
Whoa, whoa, whoa.
So Sports Terminal doesn't use it, right? Too much. So now I see the commercial. I say, hey, guys, how come you didn't? Well, geez, we can't afford $2,000 a second. I said, what? So I call them up. I says, hey, you invite us all there to do these shows back in the 50s, 60s.
Right.
It was done in 16 millimeter. Now all of a sudden there's this tape business. Oh, and there's Blockbusters. Well, gee, we'll just cut this and make a show out of Butkus, and we'll sell it out of Blockbusters. Yeah. We don't have to pay him, right?
So where are you going to go? Beat the crap out of him? You're going to go over there?
No, you go after him because they did make a mistake and use only my picture on the cover.
Right.
If they were to use 3 people on the cover, they're safe. Whatever the reason is, they could sell them. And all these players who are in our 50s and 60s, and some of them can't walk or whatever, you'd think they'd give a bone. But here, you watch Sports Classics. Everybody, hey, how many times have you seen the tape?
I've seen your tape a million
times. You got
times.
one dime. Now, I'm not want to start nothing, but not for me. I'm fine. But maybe some of the guys that are kind of banged up and they can use the money, they can use some of the cash. I don't know. Why did you bring this up?
All right, we're going to be back with Dick Butkus after this. We're back with Dick Butkus. Hey.
What?
Do you have to pay for anything? If you come to Chicago, I know, not that you don't want to pay for anything, but I got to believe you're Dick Butkus anywhere you go. I'm sure people say, hey, Dick, thanks for coming to the restaurant, or thanks for coming to my gas station. Here's a free tank of gas. I mean, do you have to pay for anything?
I must be going to the wrong places. No, that's a lot of people say, I moved out
to Malibu.
Malibu.
You and Malibu just don't. I mean, I know you've done TV shows and movies, but Malibu.
Well,
you love it, right?
Nice weather.
Do you like Malibu better than you like 103rd Street?
Just, just a little bit. No, but the thing about Chicago, which is the best about everything, is your friends. That I've been staying with this guy Jay McGreevy for roughly since 1965. How many years is that? 25, 30 years.
Yeah, 35 years.
So, and I've got my relatives, and I got my brothers, but they're all farther south. And so when I come in, I stay at Jay's, and he's been, been my host for 25 years. And then you go, and I don't usually like to go out that much. And you go to places like this, and you meet old guys like Marsico's, Tony, all these guys that are friends of everybody. It's a small world after you go around.
Right.
And everybody takes care of everybody, and it's not like a lot of guys today go with their hand out. It's just the respect and the way the old days it was done. California, it's not too much like that. It's, it's almost overboard there.
Explain something to me about Malibu. They have mudslides, and yet people continue to build their houses on the side of these mountains.
You're talking about a 26 miles long and maybe 4 or 5 miles wide strip of probably the richest real estate in the world. And there's some areas there, everybody thinks everybody's floating in money. Well, I belong to Our Lady of Malibu, Catholic Church there.
Our Lady of what?
Our Lady of Malibu. She's a patron saint that swooped down and keeps everybody alive in Malibu from the fires and the floods.
I heard your house almost burned down about 3 years ago, and that you just stood up on the porch and the fire backed off.
No.
Is this true? You went out there like this.
No.
You like that. You had your jersey on and everything else, and the fire backed off.
I don't
Is that
know,
true?
It was before I had my knee done.
Before you had your knee done, you were blowing it, right?
That was because of the firemen backburned and the wind changed. They made a bad mistake. It almost cost me my home. But out of all that other stuff.
What'd you tell the fire chief? I'll tell you what. My house burns down, I'm going to kick your ass. Okay. Yeah, the jersey.
He's right below me on the hill. and here we almost lost our home up there. And he's right below us. So every year he comes up, he says, cut the brush down, cut the brush. I said, cut the brush down. You know,
yeah.
I'm on a hill there, and it's like you got to be a mountain goat to go down there. But there are some good people. It's just like anywhere else. You know, I had an opportunity to move from Florida to Los Angeles a lot earlier than I did. But I was worried, all the kids and the drugs and all the kids. We'll wait until they get older. But it's just like anywhere, man. I mean, we came from this little. We lived in a little town, DeLand, in Florida, and some of my daughter's friends from grammar school, they're hooked on drugs. I mean, it happens anywhere.
Nobody knows anything about your prior. How many kids do you have?
3.
How many boys? How many girls?
2 boys and a girl.
Okay, how long you been married now?
63. What was that? 40 years.
Okay. You got
7 years before that.
And you met in college, right? What's your wife's name?
I met in high school.
High school?
Grammar school, high school.
What's your wife's name?
Helen.
Helen,
Yeah,
okay.
she's on the south side. 113th.
113th?
Near State and.
I just can't get over this Our Lady of Malibu thing. I mean,
our main supporters are Martin Sheen and Carol O'Connor.
Really?
Yeah. You know, their kids had problems with drugs and everything else, and so they're there every Saturday night. And
do they have like bingo, and do they have like?
My wife's a black belt bingo player.
Really? Okay. And do they have Las Vegas night where you're dealing? Hey, there's Butkus. He's dealing kind. I mean,
not at Lady of Malibu, but at an Indian casino. See, I got an Indian partner, Dave Paulus, who I played at Illinois, and he's a Oneida from Green Bay, and we have an insurance business, which we do a lot of business in Indian country for employees at Indian casinos and tribal enterprises. And my wife is. I'd see she plays bingo about 3 or 4 times a night, and I see her going, and she puts her cash in the envelope. She'll come home like, big deal, what's this? Well, you won. I won. I said, well, how much did you spend? You know,
right.
I mean, there's a buy-in, but then they. So she's not. She must have been playing one day, and I've got the computer right, and I got all that stuff. So I'm looking in her drawer, and she's writing down all what she wins. So I got all that she won. I went back on Quicken, and I could trace her checkbook and her credit card.
You know what? We'll be back. We'll be back with more Dick Butkus right after this.
Help us find homes for animals in need. To adopt this pet, call this number. A public service message from Overtime with Mike North.
Before we had to leave, I'm really excited about the finish of this bingo story.
All right, so I check everything. I check the Quicken, I check everything else. So I'm ready to say, all right, that's it. No more bingo. You're losing. She wins $20,000 for the last 3 years. For the last 3 years, she's won. I can't say nothing now. Good luck, Kim. In bingo, let me get it. And because I do a lot of business in casinos, I'd ask the bingo people. I said, what's the deal with bingo?
Is there an art to this?
No, there is no art. I mean, you got to be lucky. I mean, and plus, when you go to a slot machine, you put your coins in, and you could walk away anytime. In bingo, you're laying down the money for all the games.
Right.
Right there. It's like she's like a hardcore gambler, but I can't say nothing.
I can't believe I'm talking to the greatest defensive player of all time about Our Lady of Malibu and bingo games. I really can't.
But we got a life.
I understand. I want to talk to you about. There was a rumor that you once were warm inside a plane and you punched a window out. Any rumor to that? Any rumor to that?
Well, it happened, but it wasn't.
What
like
happened? How did this happen?
We were flying to.
On the Bears, right?
Yeah, it was like my rookie year. So we're flying to Tennessee or Tennessee for an exhibition game, and it was a prop plane, and it was hotter than hell. And I just went like this, and
I bet you just went like this.
No, I didn't try to knock it out. It was totally just like that, and it fell out on the wing.
So now there's no window.
So now Right. Well, we weren't up in the air.
Oh, it was on the ground. Oh, I'm going to say because that could have been a problem.
Oh yeah. Well, maybe I can, say yeah, it was a 747, and and I knocked it out. But that's our story. Nothing. No big deal. Just it must have been an emergency window. It fell off.
So
So there might have been a writer on board. Oh, Butkus knocked the window out.
Everything you did. Now, how would you react to sports radio back then if they had sports radio or all the stuff, ESPN and CNN, SI? Do you think that you would have had a problem? Because we dissect everything. Oh, Butkus missed that tackle. The guy gained 7 yards, got a first down. It ended up costing us the game.
Well, see, back then you really didn't want to say anything bad about everybody. There was kind of like an unwritten rule that you don't jag the other guys or whatever. Partly because if you did, they would come back at you. It'd come back to hurt you. Whereas now, it's the run of the mill. So to answer your question, to start out on sports radio, I probably would have had a difficult time because I wouldn't say probably what I really thought about everything. And when I was doing the Bear games, I thought, I loosened up a little bit. It's great. Willie
You screamed when there was a touchdown. That was beautiful.
Yeah,
you were a fan.
I was breaking every Marty Glickman School of Broadcasting rule. You don't step on, Wayne Larrabee, and you do this. But when you see Willie Gault slide and you notice every time he caught a ball, he was sliding or falling, and no one was around. I said, hey, look, if this guy would just make one juke, he'd be gone with his speed.
Right.
Well, Willie heard about it, and who's Butkus saying about that about me? Start talking bad about it. Well, look at the damn tape. Then there was a defensive end, and still I won't identify him, but whenever there was a field goal, he'd stand about the 12-yard line and go like this. Think that's going to stop
him? Who was it?
Dent.
Okay, I'm glad you brought it up. What's your dad? Well, they called him the Colonel.
This is late in his career, he would just go like this. It's interesting. When you want to see who's still in the game, late in the game when you're getting beat and the team scored, watch the extra, the block for the extra point and see who's really playing. Hey. And I used to, there would be another time I'd wind up on the center, and then I was the blocking back, and then when these guys would, it's the extra point, and they'd come through, then that's when
you know what I like? We'll talk about this when we come back. That touchdown he caught. More Dick Butkus right after this.
Be sure to cast your vote on which NCAA games you want to see on CBS 2 Chicago, on the phone or on the net.
By the way, Illinois' got another Butkus on the team, your nephew now.
Yep.
What's his first name?
Luke.
And then the last team, the 83 team, your other nephew.
Mark.
Okay. And now, and in 63, of course, you were on that team. So
every time there was a Butkus at Illinois, they went to the Rose Bowl.
So we're looking good.
Yeah.
It looks good.
I think we're getting close.
I got to ask you, we got about a minute and a half left. With the last 2 years of your career, you played on one leg.
Yep.
And I believe a lot of guys intentionally took shots at you because they said, this is our chance. You had been punishing people for the first 6, 7 years of your career. And I guess they were telling you, hey, Butkus, we're not, they were laughing. They didn't feel sorry for you at all, did they?
Right. No, and it was something like, I think it was a Kansas City Monday night game, which was the last game I played at. Meredith was on the Monday Night Football saying that he admired my courage, but he was questioning my intelligence for playing. But back then, you could not give any indication that you didn't want to play because of the contracts. Right. So the last 3 years, I never practiced. I only played in the game, and it took me all week to get ready. And I might have been stupid or whatever, but I just loved the game so much, and then it got into the legal deal. And even my brother, my family said, "Man, what are you doing there? What are you doing there?" I said, "You don't understand. If I'm going to break my ass for these people, and it's a natural, we're getting underpaid with them. Well, if I honor the contract, shouldn't they honor theirs?
Right.
So it's my fault that you got a screwed up doctor that destroyed my knee now, so you cut my my playing time down. Hey, I'll take less and be a coach.
Well, you know what?
And so what do they do? They go and they get every phony judge they can to beat you. But I hung in there, and all of a sudden they laughed about it. Okay, here's this contract. And I talked to my lawyer. I said, why? Why won't they? How much did that cost them extra?
Yeah. They could have
Well,
just given
you
it
know.
But I'll tell you what. You played, and you played every day game. You played hurt, and that's why Chicago still loves you, Dick. We appreciate you coming out with us, man. Dick Butkus! We'll see you next week here on Tom Disco's Overtime.
Transportation for guests of Overtime with Mike North provided by Charles Joseph Limousine Service, 312-623-1428. Clothing for Mr. North and Mr. Suntress designed by Arnold Brandt, courtesy of Executive Clothiers on Elmhurst Road in Prospect Heights. Signs of Success, experts in corporate and team apparel in Chicago. Call toll-free 1-877-SOS-6250. This is John Shaky Suntress for Overtime with Mike North, a Licorice Limited production.
All right, we are back. What a sensational interview, Mike. And Mike, when you watch it again, what goes through your mind? What goes through your heart?
Well, first of all, that I still thought I was in my prime now, until I see how good I was. And I am trying to hang on to that as long as I possibly can. That, no stuttering, no, if you, Eldo watched it, I don't stutter once. I know my facts. I got quotes. I'm young. I'm living the life. I'm the first guy. I don't know how many radio guys have won awards in radio and then crossed over and won Emmys. I won 2. I won another one on Fox 32 for Bear coverage. So I was very honored to do that, to be a crossover guy. It's no different than Mick Jagger going over to sing country, which the Stones have. Mike North going over to TV was, you know, I mean, certain guys have done it, but to do it on CBS, the town I grew up in, on the show that I grew up watching Johnny Morris and everybody else, it was just gratifying. And the people are into TV. That show would be that set. This is how far back I think TV has stepped back. There's not an hour show like that. There's not a half-hour show like that show from a locale in the middle of the, not downtown, on the north side. We had limo drive, Charles Joseph. We had limos for him. If you see all the prizes we give them afterwards, the gifts, suits, TV. I mean, I tell the Jake LaMotta story real quick. He goes, "What do I get for this?" I go, "You get a TV." "How big is it?" I go, 27. He goes, "Oh, no, it ain't." I go, "Excuse me?" "I want a big TV." I go, "A big TV?" "Yeah, 40 inch. I go, "Well, we only give out a 27 inch. You're not hearing me. I feel like I'm looking at De Niro. You know, he goes, "Mike." And Lou Duva was with them that night. "Mike, I need a 40 inch. I go, "We'll call the little guys." Because if you look at our sponsors like Aldo did, the little guys are all these great people. Dave Wexler. And so we tell Jake, it's arranged. We made the call. "All right, now listen. You got to send it to a post office box." I go, Jake, you can't send a 40-incher TV to a post office box. "Oh, well, why do you want that? Why would we even think of doing that?" "Because if it's delivered to my home, my sister will steal it." So these were the stuff that went on in between, just to book these guys. We flew them in.
Yeah.
That's what's good about having a big sponsor. We flew
Yes.
Pete Rose in. We flew Jake LaMotta in from New York. Pete Rose from LA. That's what's good about it. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the interview. It's the best interview, in my opinion, and I'm a little biased, that Dick Butkus has ever done, because it's not just about, well, you know, I hit the guy in a... No. What was it like playing at Gately Stadium? What was it like, you know, to not play football till you got in high school?
Yeah.
What was it like to play football? I mean, think about this. We've all played football without equipment, but not with Dick Butkus when he was in like his first year of high school. So that there, and his honest answers, and he turns me on about a new thing called the internet. The internet. I said, what are you talking about? Well, and that became a project for me down the line with a great idea that didn't turn out, but Webio was a great idea and it was way ahead of its time. And Dick and Doug Buffone helped start me on that. So
how about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I hope everybody enjoyed it.
It was fantastic, Mike. I got to tell you, it was so entertaining and informative, and you were at your prime there, and you're not too far behind your prime right now, Mike.
I told Jagger the other night, I told Sinatra, I go, your voice is starting to tail off in your 80s. What's the problem? He looked at me.
All right. For Mike North, I am Aldo Gandia. We'll see you next time we have one of these special ones for you. Bye-bye, everybody.